I think she hates him.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, so we can all agree on that. That's a given. I also think that she wants to take him out. She does not want to be the first lady anymore.
They agree with you.
She doesn't want to be the first lady. She destroyed the Rose Garden. Who hates Christmas? Melania Trump hates Christmas. She doesn't want to decorate for Christmas. She doesn't want anything to do with him. She doesn't want to sleep in the same room with him. She can't tolerate him.
Allegedly.
And she does.
Yeah, how do you know all this?
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know all this.
What began as a joke on The View quickly turned into something far sharper. Sunny Hostin wasn't just teasing Trump's marriage. She was pressing on the very silence that has followed Melania for years. Everything you're about to hear is based on real statements, official records, and what happened next sent Donald Trump into a full-blown meltdown.
You can't have a felon, a liar, a serial cheater. You know, he had Melania next to him, his third wife, who he cheated with Stormy Daniels on while she was pregnant. I think he stands against everything and flies in the face of everything that a Catholic believes and holds dear. He is not a faithful man. Trump has denied ever having an affair with Stormy Daniels.
Oh, that again?
It was a moment broadcast nationally, with Sunny spelling out what many see as the contradiction between Trump's public image and his private record.
I admit I may not have spent as much time in a courtroom as you have.
That's a good one.
I was also recognized with a Special Achievement Award by the Department of Justice. You remember the Department of Justice, right? It's the agency that's been pursuing you for decades. I'll even give you a free View mug, not to be confused, though, with a mugshot, because that's your area.
By tying in the Department of Justice, Hostin wasn't just joking, she was anchoring her remarks in years of ongoing investigations, a reminder that Trump's legal battles are never far from the surface. And if you're nodding along, or just waiting to hear what Sunny's about to drop next, go ahead and subscribe. Because trust me, it only gets messier from here.
And what was really striking to me is that we have on the one side, this 34 count convicted felon. And on the other side, we have a man who the International Criminal Court has a warrant out for war crimes and crimes against humanity, because 46,000 Palestinians have been killed and mostly women and children, and 100,000 have been wounded. And so Gaza has become a wasteland, and that's something that we don't talk about, but that's just the truth of the matter. And so you have sort of one alleged criminal and one convicted criminal making plans that are illegal.
The set grew quiet before the applause came in. Hostin framed Trump not just as a candidate under investigation, but as part of a larger picture where executive power collides with the rule of law.
These countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate.
Donald Trump, I want to thank you for personally telling so many lies and committing so many alleged crimes and providing us with material on a daily basis. You help us do our jobs, and I'm so appreciative.
The contrast was stark. While Sunny talked about courts and legality, Trump turned foreign negotiations into theater, boasting like it was another episode of reality TV.
He's just this crybaby with this complex of victimhood, right? Here he is, this billionaire, supposedly, there's this, there's that. All he does is bitch and moan and complain and whine and nag.
He's a very small man. He's a very small
Well,
man.
fortunately, I don't know how small he is, but I know he's not big enough to be president.
Yeah.
He's clearly very focused on this show because we keep calling him out, and we're going to keep doing it.
He said in that clip, every president provides their birth certificate. No, they don't, but do you know what they do provide? They provide their taxes
records.
and their medical records.
And
that is something that he lost track of.
By the end, the panel had tied together the threads: unchecked executive power, secrecy around finances, and a style of leadership that looked less like governance and more like entertainment. But if you think that was the best, Just wait, because what Sonny says next didn't just rattle Trump. It went straight for the core. Stick around.
I think he knows what he's doing. He bankrupted. What we keep on failing to remember is that he bankrupted 2 casinos. He had 6 bankruptcies. Nobody does that. He's just not a good business person. He doesn't understand economics. His professor at Wharton Business School basically said he was the dumbest student he'd ever had in his career. These are just facts. So Trump definitely doesn't understand economics. He's listening to someone who you say doesn't understand economics. And so there is no end plan. There is no game plan. He doesn't know how to negotiate. He couldn't negotiate himself out of a paper bag.
As the recession risk climbs, Trump keeps dodging the numbers, and Sonny doesn't buy the act. 6 bankruptcies, 2 failed casinos, and still no real plan.
Job numbers are down. U.S. employers cut more jobs, 172,000 jobs last month, than any February since 2009 during the global financial crisis.
To all those people who are out of work? Yeah. And that's just in television.
They're going to lose their homes. They're going to lose everything. Stocks are down. The recession risks that he's saying that there maybe not. He doesn't want to say anything. Well, the people that do study that say that the recession risk is now about 40%. Yeah, about 40%. So it's just fascinating to me that more people aren't talking about the fact that he is tanking the economy that he got.
But this isn't just about casinos and classrooms. It's about jobs, families, a country that watched 172,000 people lose work in a single month, while the man in charge kept blaming everyone but himself.
To Whoopi's point at the very beginning, meaning that clip that we played, that he's saying, everybody's kissing my butt. They're actually not, because China has accused the United States of blackmail and declared that Beijing would fight to the end. The Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has said its friendship with the U.S. is over. Australia's Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said Trump's tariffs have no basis in logic, are not the act of a friend, and he called them totally unwarranted. Macron from France, he said the tariffs are brutal and unfounded.
As one Wall Street Journal reports that even Chinese EV makers like BYD are gaining ground, thanks in part to U.S. policies that favor outdated gas cars. Meanwhile, U.S. auto plants face shutdowns and supply chains remain fractured. As Nissan bluntly put it, they're exporting everywhere, except the U.S. So much for America first. As one Wall Street Journal reports that even Chinese EV makers like BYD are gaining ground, thanks in part to U.S. policies that favor outdated gas cars. Meanwhile, U.S. auto plants face shutdowns and supply chains remain fractured. As Nissan bluntly put it, they're exporting everywhere, except the U.S. So much for America first.
The First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason, and that's freedom of the press. And because I think our forefathers really understood, if you look at the history and you look at some of what was taking place on the floor when they were drafting these amendments, and wonky lawyers like me do things like that, they made it clear that a free press was most important to a democracy. And so that change that the White House made in breaking with, over a century of precedent is just unheard of. And it really sounds the alarm for someone like me who studied journalism in college, right? It scares me a bit.
And Sonny reminds us, this isn't a game show. It's a government. And it needs more than just a catchphrase to keep it standing.
The difference between himself and a character like Trump is that he would surround himself with people that knew their positions and knew more than he knows, and then he would learn from them. So the fact that he said he was unqualified doesn't seem to mean to him in his mind that he still can't be president, which I think is a scary proposition because, not only has Trump emboldened people to run for the highest office of the land, he's actually surrounded himself with incompetency. So that
is scary to me. And people that are loyal, that will just do whatever he says and go along with the program.
Her concern reflected a break in tradition. Reporters restricted, press briefings cut back, and critics often targeted online.
The lying, his lying is monumental, as we all know. And even people who are Trump supporters, watch this. Just watch this. This is good.
I have a hard time doing it to them because I'm basically a truthful person. But and frankly,
basically, and I am a natural redhead who's 29 years old. Okay, I mean the jokes just come so easily.
The laughter filled the studio, but the punchline underlined Sunny's point. When leaders blur the truth, it's the press and the public that are left to sort fact from performance.
We need to look at intent. Why attack the Department of Education? Because if you have an entire country of people that are not educated well, you create a permanent working underclass who can't really make a lot of money because they're not trained to critically think, they're not trained to write well, they're not trained in math. And so I think there's a master plan here, and it's really stressing me out.
But if you thought crashing the economy was the worst of it, just wait till you see what he did to public education.
I'm devastated by it because it's just a continuation of the erasure of American history. Of course, I take it a little personally because one of my closest friends is Alicia Garza, who wrote the letter that started the Black Lives Matter movement, and she is one of our thought leaders of our generation. And so I'm saddened by it, but let's be clear, this was extortion. Take it down or lose federal funding.
Trump's cuts to education might be the real long-term damage, and Sunny Hostin didn't hold back. To her, gutting the Department of Education isn't just a budget move, it's a blueprint for dumbing down a generation.
To Whoopi's point at the very beginning, meaning that clip that we played, that he's saying, everybody's kissing my butt. They're actually not, because China has accused the United States of blackmail and declared that Beijing would fight to the end. The Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has said its friendship with the U.S. is over. Australia's Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, said Trump's tariffs have no basis in logic, are not the act of a friend, and he called them totally unwarranted. Macron from France, he said the tariffs are brutal and unfounded.
Well, who said?
I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, no country can count on America anymore. They're going to ice us out economically. We're going to be on our own because they're not going to be able to depend on a country that every 4 years could elect a dictator. They can't rely upon.
According to Sunny, this isn't just about rewriting a few textbooks. It's extortion, plain and simple.
He has taken a sledgehammer to government. People are actually feeling the real life effects of it. People are losing their jobs. They're losing their homes. They're going to probably lose their Social Security. They're probably not going to be able to buy enough eggs to make an omelet. They're going to feel it. And when that happens, I can tell you that it is very complicated. The federal government is very complicated. Politics are very, very complicated. You need someone with not only good common sense, but experience and the merit that it takes to be the executive in chief.
If you've ever felt the price of groceries rising or watched your kids' schools lose funding, now's the time to speak up. Drop a comment below. And now, Sunny's words shifted from politics to daily impact, pointing to how decisions at the top filter down into homes, paychecks, and even groceries.
These are hitting everyday Americans. Most families are going to lose between $4,000 and $8,000 in their homes. Some people will become unhoused. Some people will not be able to feed their children. Some people will not be able to educate their children.
People are going to die.
Yeah. And
let's not get away from that.
But I would say one last thing. We need to name what this is, because we had someone saying, this is Trump's economy. This is Trump's economy. We should call this the Trump slump. This is the Trump slump. This is his deal. He needs to own this, and we should not let him off the hook. Anytime he says something like, well, it's probably going to be good, I'm using it as a negotiation, as you pointed out. Trump, slump. This is all on him.
Her comment drew nods. It wasn't just about Trump himself, but about how governing by impulse rather than experience could leave institutions fragile.
After Trump was inaugurated, already proposed amending the 22nd Amendment to allow Trump to serve a third term. I think he doesn't want to, he's not going to say that J.D. Vance is a successor because he thinks he's his own successor.
But doesn't that mean that Obama can run also?
Well, you would think so because part of the resolution says no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than 3 times. And the argument is that Trump needs more time to accomplish his agenda and reverse the policies of the Biden administration.
The suggestion underscored just how quickly the boundaries of power were being tested 3 days into a presidency, already floating the prospect of rewriting the Constitution.
And he is militarizing and deploying the Guard for the purpose of policing Americans' protest activity, right? Our freedom of speech, our freedom of assembly. And there's a very big, stark demarcation between military troops and law enforcement, public law enforcement, civilian law enforcement. Right. And you are an army turned inside to police its citizens can cause chaos, fascism. And so I think that's the way, and civil war. Yeah. I think that's the way we need to look at it, because deploying the National Guard is supposed to be a last resort. But what this president is doing is that he's saying he's going to deploy them anywhere in this country.
The room grew tense. The distinction between civilian law enforcement and military power was being blurred, and Hostin's warning tied it back to democracy itself. When checks and balances weaken, the line between leadership and control becomes harder to see.
We don't know if it's purely financial. I mean, if you look at some of the numbers, it could be financial. And I don't know that it's purely political. It could be. But my concern is if it is political, then everyone should be concerned. People on the right should be concerned. People on the left should be concerned. Because it's very clear that if it is political, this is the dismantling of our democracy. This is the dismantling of our Constitution, right? And so the First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason, and that is freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom to speak truth to power. If that is taken away, if the comedians are being attacked, then that means our Constitution is being dismantled. That's right. That means the very rubric of our democracy is being dismantled.
From immigration hypocrisy to economic missteps, from censorship fears to global isolation, Sunny Hostin held nothing back. Her words weren't just a critique of Trump, but a warning about what happens when personal power outweighs public accountability. At the heart of it all is a deeper question. Can a democracy survive when truth becomes optional? No matter where you stand politically, these conversations matter, because in the end, the strength of a nation depends not on one leader, but on the values we choose to uphold together. This video covers a televised segment where Sunny Hostin, co-host of The View, made public remarks about the Trump family, specifically Melania Trump's marriage. All content shown is based on verified broadcast material and widely circulated media coverage. We aim to present the facts accurately, without exaggeration or speculation. This video complies fully with YouTube's community guidelines and fair use policy for commentary, analysis, and public interest. If you found this video insightful or engaging, feel free to subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.